Hey, this is Terry, and in this video, I want to talk about the Alti-Et. Now, the name Alti-Et in Norwegian and in Swedish means all-in-one, and that's the best definition of this product. It is an all-in-one sound system that includes sources, amplification, and speakers. And it's designed, probably more than any other primary product, to fill our goal of providing the best possible experience for the greatest number of people. I'll unpack that a little bit because this design philosophy is informed by two basic components here in Scandinavia. One is the concept of lagom here in Sweden, which means not too much, not too little, everything in balance and proportion. But it's a broad concept and a broad term that also extends to the idea that everyone should have access to everything. And then there's this concept of hygge, which is Danish and Norwegian. The Swedish term is music. For the deepest, most satisfying experience we can have is just the simple pleasure of spending time with family and friends, with food and drink, movies and music. And so all of those kinds of interests combine in that this product can provide a high performance audio system for those people who neither can afford nor have the space, or for that matter, the desire for a full component system, meaning sources, amplification, separate speakers. But it's also for those people who already have a high performance component system in the home, be it a high powered stereo or a full home cinema. And the concept here is based on the fact that in a lot of cases, those systems are a bit off limits to the entire household. There's a reluctance to use them by family members because they may break them or somehow misalign the settings of the system and have it not function properly or as the way it was set up to do. And so what Alti-Et does is allow to have that full performance sound in any spot in the room so that everyone in the household can enjoy listening to music or, for that matter, video out loud. Now, this is becoming increasingly less in the way of it happening, in the sense that people can be plugged in with earbuds and headphones on their mobile devices. But there's a real interest, or there's a real reason why you might want to have music out loud in your home. In fact, a guy by the name of Daniel Levitin, who wrote this amazing book called This Is Your Brain on Music, and if you haven't read it, do so. It is a great description of how our hearing, the sense of hearing, works. And it's really quite fascinating what we know and what we don't know, given how complicated and effective it is. He was asked to do a study to measure what the effect of having a music system playing out loud in the home. And I'll be brief because the study actually was quite in depth. But what he discovered is that every aspect improved. People spent more time together. They sat or stood more closely together. They cooked more meals together, thought those meals tasted better. And in fact, in the metric that I always found most interesting is that parent and partner in bed awake time improved by 67% or increased by 67%. And I'm not suggesting that if you put an Alti-Et, say, in the bedroom, or that your sex life is going to improve by almost 0.75%, or that if you put it in the kitchen, your food will taste better. I do know that if you put it, say, partnering with your TV as an alternate to a sound bar, your video experience will be better. What I am saying is that this product is designed so it has easy access, so that everyone can listen and enjoy music in any room of the household. Now, in order to achieve that, there's a lot going on in this unit. And so what I'm going to need to do for this video is kind of cut things up into sections so that I can make sure that I don't miss out on any of the features and functionality that are packed into this compact box. So just how does Alti-Et provide this complete experience in any room in the home? Well, we need to start with the foundation of it all, and that's the speaker and amplifier system. In the case of speakers, what we have are two high-frequency drivers in waveguide housings to more evenly disperse the high frequencies into the room. And then those are partnered with two mid-range drivers, and those are further partnered with 6 low-frequency drivers, 2 on the front, 2 in the back, and 2 underneath. Now, these are tied directly to an amplifier that provides 300 watts of peak power. But more importantly, beyond that power, it is controlled by DSP, digital signal processing, to make sure that the output of the amplifier and the speakers deliver the best possible performance from this compact speaker package. Additionally, that DSP allows for some placement options. You can have it on the wall as we have it here, in the corner, or out in free space. And each of those locations, it will either increase or reduce the bass output from the Alti-Et. And so we have it now selected for on-wall placement here to make sure that the bass is in balance for that location or position. In addition to this, we have Auto Room EQ, and this is a DSP program that is part of the Prisma application that is included with the Alti-Et, and that either using an iOS phone, an Apple phone, or if you're using Android, using a separate Zen microphone that we have available, you simply start a calibration process where you measure with an output that the Alti-Et provides by moving the microphone or the phone around the room at the various listening positions where you expect to sit or stand. And then, after it's captured, that information takes about 30 seconds, you simply hit a calibrate button, and that immediately calibrates for the conditions in the room and provides you with the most linear output from wherever your Alti-Et may be positioned. Now, there are cases where, as good as this sophisticated computer-controlled digital signal processing might be, that you may want to go in and have your own custom settings. And that's where we provide 11-channel graphic equalizer from 32 cycles to 16,000 cycles and 9 equal steps in between. You can raise or lower whichever frequency you feel you need to, depending upon the source you're listening to or simply your preferences to how you want things to sound. Now, in addition to this, and this is particularly useful if you're using the Alti-Et as an alternate sound bar, we have something called a Bach spatial audio plugin. And Bach is derived from a very ultra sophisticated digital signal processing program that's based on the idea that immersive audio may actually be best produced by just two speakers, avoiding the potential negative interactions of multiple speakers in a home cinema room. And so what this provides for Alti-Et is that when you select to enable this Bach plugin, it gives you this greater sense of immersive sound. Now, it's a subtle distinction. You kind of have to be in front of the Alti-Et as you would when using it as a sound bar with the television. But it does allow the sound to be further divorced from the source of it coming from a small compact box, and is really quite convincing. Now, in addition to that, particularly if you're using the Alti-Et as an alternate sound bar, we have subwoofer output with full bass management. Now, for those of you who know what home cinema involves, having a subwoofer often is critical to get the best possible performance. You need that low frequency support for a lot of these low frequency effects that are part of many movies, if not all movies these days. But where this becomes really interesting beyond the home cinema installation side of things is when you're trying to play into a larger room. Let's say you have an open concept kitchen, dining, and living room, and you want the Alti-Et to provide even sound throughout that large space. Well, what the subwoofer can do is relieve a little bit of the burden of low bass that might otherwise overtax the Alti-Et. And by shifting it over to the subwoofer, we can play the Alti-Et louder, and in fact the subwoofer louder, so the whole system plays louder, more effectively, and incredible balance and fidelity. So all of those features really allow you to have this wonderful music out loud experience. However, there may be moments when you don't want to have this powerful sound, this powerful music playing out loud, when you need, say, a more private interaction with your music or movie, particularly if you're excited about watching an action film later at night and the rest of the members of your household want to go to bed. Well, and there we have headphone connection of a couple of different varieties. One, wired with a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack on the side here, or using Bluetooth aptX, we can use then Bluetooth connected wireless headphones, whether they're over the ear or in-ear monitors, to allow you to play music or movies as loud as you want without disturbing any other member of the household. Now, feeding this powerful system of speakers and headphone connection are multiple internal sources to the Alti-Et. Now, the first one I want to talk about is something I never really thought I'd be speaking about in 2025, having grown up in the industry based in FM radio. But we're finding that with this goal of providing the best possible experience for the greatest number of people, many, many people still listen to FM radio or DAB+ radio. And we have both of those radio functions built into the unit. In fact, for FM and DAB, this is why we have this beautiful antenna here on the ALTI-ET. And what we've done with this is made sure then that as you find your favorite stations, you can simply plug in presets or set your favorite stations and access them through the touch screen on the touch panel here on the ALTI-ET. And as well as you can access them using the remote control or your mobile device. And this means that anyone then can have immediate access to whichever their favorite radio stations they might want to listen to. And it's really easy to program them. You simply tune in the station, whether it's a DAB Plus or FM station, and then hold down one of the preset buttons. And it will ask if you want to save it as a favorite. You'll say okay, and it's done. It's that simple. And that's what informs all of ALTI-ET, with this kind of easy access and the ability then to get to your music, get to the sound from your movie as fast as possible. And indeed, with that in mind, we also have on board AirPlay 2 and Bluetooth for other connectivity options that people may or may not want to use. And then we have Prisma on board, which is our control app that does two functions. It controls a NAS drive, as well as provide easy one-app access to Qobuz, Tidal Max, and another radio function should the simple presets on the ALTI-ET not be enough. In addition to that, with even greater high performance options, are Spotify Connect and, new for Primaire, Tidal Connect and Qobuz Connect that allows native app use for both of those amazing streaming services for direct connection to the ALTI-ET, controlling it to go out onto the internet and get 24:192 up to 24:192 resolution files for playback. It's an extraordinary system that's absolutely stable and has an amazing facility to connect you with your music, as well as allows everyone in the household to use whichever platform they want. You may have family members that prefer Spotify, others that prefer Qobuz, others that simply want to connect maybe visitors to your home using Bluetooth. All of those are allowed by these internal input options. And now for external sources, we have an even greater variety of options in many cases. We have, if sticking with the digital domain, we have HDMI input so that you can connect your television to the ALTI-ET. And in this way, it becomes that alternative soundbar with the great sound that the ALTI-ET is capable of providing. It also provides CEC controls, but we would recommend that you actually use the Prisma remote control, which will be able to control your television as well as all the functions of the ALTI-ET, making it a true one remote solution for that installation. Additionally, we have Toslink optical digital input, we've got RCA coaxial digital input, and we have USB-A input if you want to connect a portable drive or thumb drive to play stored files from that source. And then, in order to connect us to the network and the world outside, there are dual Ethernet ports. And this allows you to connect not only to your network, a wired connection to your router, which we prefer for the lowest noise and most stable connection, but also allows direct connection of that NAS drive. A NAS drive that's holding all of your stored digital media can be directly connected to the ALTI-ET for the greatest ease in putting your system together, as well as the benefits of having a switch in the system for your Ethernet connections. Then there are analog inputs, or we have one. The analog input has two functions. One, it can take a straight analog input from a CD player, let's say, or with a flip of a switch, it can be configured to have a phono stage in line so that you can add a turntable for vinyl playback with the ALTI-ET. Connection and control. Now, this is vitally important when you have as many input options, both external and internal, that you might have with ALTI-ET, as well as all the different options for output from the speakers and headphones. And we've tried to make that as simple as we possibly can, and we've done it effectively at the ALTI-ET with a motorized display that has been kind of looming over my shoulder this entire time that you can raise or lower to the height that you might prefer. And in fact, when using it as an alternative soundbar, obviously laying it down all the way so that it's not distracting you from the image on the screen may be the preferred position. In any case, that motorized display partners a touchscreen display just below it. And it is from the touchscreen display that you can set up the Alti-Et in its entirety, beginning with Wi-Fi connection. And we know that this can sometimes be complicated for people. And so we've made this as simple as you possibly can, just a couple of button presses, and you will be connected to the Wi-Fi, as long as you remember your password, of course. Now, all of the setting controls can be adjusted from the touchscreen panel, as well as tuning the radio stations and setting the presets there. In fact, it's so flexible that we've even incorporated the graphic EQ into the touchscreen, so that just by raising and lowering it with your fingertip, you can adjust whatever frequency you would prefer to have louder or softer as you listen to the Alti-Et. And in fact, with all of these transport controls that are available for what you're streaming, it could be that you have forgotten your cell phone or it's not readily at hand, or the remote control. You can just come up to the Alti-Et and actually control streaming from Tidal or Qobuz from the Alti-Et itself. In fact, pretty much everything is available at the Alti-Et. And in fact, that's kind of a good metaphor to end this video. The Alti-Et essentially is this all-in-one sound source that allows easy access for music to be played out loud anywhere in your home for anyone in the household. And there are a lot more specific details about how it does what it does and all the setup options that you have available to you. But for the purposes of this video, I think I'll close now. And if you want more details, go to our website, to the Alti-Et page on our website. If you have additional questions, certainly fill out a help request form and ask those questions, and they will be answered by myself or the various people who have actually designed our product. And then, if you have an interest in Primare, sign up for our newsletter. We don't use it as a marketing or sales tool. It is there for information. So any updates, any new products, any new features, functionalities, reviews, and other things that may be of interest and of use to you when getting the most out of your Primare product, it's all available or communicated through our newsletter. And with that, thanks for watching.